I want to defeat every major boss in Elden Ring's DLC with one attack, which is going to be pretty ridiculous considering some of these guys have 47,000 HP, and this has been called one of the most difficult expansions ever released. I want to do this to show that there is always multiple ways to get good at this game. You can study movesets and learn exactly when you're supposed to dodge and counterattack, or you can meticulously build craft and trivialize these fights with the right setup. Let's set a couple of definitions. For this challenge, any attack that only requires one button input is considered one shot, and I can only do one attack per boss phase. Boss phases are entirely separate health bars or cutscenes, and there's only a total of 3 multi-phase bosses in this DLC. I've put hundreds of hours of research, scripting, and recording into this video, so if you end up enjoying it, please consider subscribing. Let's get into it. The new way to gain power in the DLC is the Scadu tree, or apparently Scadu is Old English for shadow. I don't really know, the Skibbity toilet fragments. And believe it or not, it's possible to pick up 34 of these fragments before ever fighting a boss. That translates to Shadow Tree level 14 or a 90% damage buff. However, at the time of recording, the patch had not yet come out, so it was only a 70% damage buff. Still, obviously going to help out a whole lot on this run. Now, I won't go through every single fragment location. If you want that, here's a map, or you can just go to mapgenie.io and find their Shadow of the Erdtree map. The important part to be able to access all of the map is the sneaky spirit spring that leads to Shadow Altus from the Gravesite Plains without needing to beat Rolana at Castle Ensis. The next roadblock that you might think of is the Hippo in the Shadow Keep. However, this fight is also not required. It's possible to instead drop through the hole in Murth Ruins, going all the way around past the Cathedral of Manus Metyr, and finding the back entrance into the Shadow Keep that gives me access to the bridge that takes me to the Rao Ancient Ruins, and the elevator that eventually leads down to the Abyssal Woods. And doing all of those things will give me access to almost all of the map and the first 34 fragments that I will be collecting, leaving 16 more locked behind boss fights. One of those boss fights, blocking 2 fragments, is the Ancient Dragon Man. He's blocking the Red Flower area as well as the Jagged Peak. Let's go over the build that I'm using for this fight, but rest assured I will be using all sorts of different builds throughout the video. This is using the Occult Giant Crusher with Royal Knight's Resolve. This is the highest attack power weapon in the game when you can have both high arcane and strength. For this build, I have around 80 arcane and 60 strength. The Giant Crusher is from this chest in Altus. The Black Wet Blade for the Occult Attunement is in Nokron, and Royal Knight's Resolve is in Volcano Manor. The buffs that I'm using here, and you will see most of these throughout the whole video, are Golden Vow for a 15% damage buff from Mount Gelmir, Howl of Shabriri for a 25% damage buff from Liurnia, the White Mask and Lord of Blood's Exaltation combo, which do 10% and 20% respectively whenever blood loss happens nearby, and to proc that blood loss, I'm using a curved sword with seppuku on it. For the 3 other talisman slots, I am using Red Feathered Branch Sword for a 20% damage buff at low health, the Axe Talisman for 10% buff to charged attacks, and the Two-Handed Sword Talisman, which is a new inclusion in the DLC that buffs two-handed weapons by 10%. In the Physic, I have the Spike Crack tier for a 15% buff to charged attacks, and the Strength Knot tier, which really won't be doing too much, but something is better than nothing. And all of that combined together is the secret recipe for Bushy's Pancakes. Alright, so probably 4 total is going to be good enough. Okay, and then we're gonna drink, vow, howl, seppuku twice. This might kill me, let's find out. Alright, it did not. Then we switch. Okay, I switched the wrong thing. Here. With the first hurdle passed, there are 2 fragments and 1 extra shadow level available. Alright, cool. As a reminder, we don't need to one-shot the non-bosses. For this next fight, I am going to be using the new weapon type perfumes. The Lightning Perfume, which has the best scaling and highest damage out of all of them, combined with the Rolling Sparks Ash of War, is going to be the strongest option here. I've also adjusted the talismans and physic to synergize better. Red Feathered Branch Sword is still there because it's just the best talisman for this run. The Perfumer's Talisman buffs perfumes by 20% and is picked up in Altis. Lightning Scorpion Charm buffs lightning damage by 12%, and that's also picked up in Altis in a Catacomb. And finally, the Shard of Alexander buffing Ashes of War by 20%, which comes from completing Alexander's questline and defeating him in Farum Azula. The Physic has the Lightning tier for 20% extra lightning damage and the Faith tier for extra weapon scaling. On top of all that, I added a couple of unique pieces of gear that will add just a little bit of extra damage. The Black Dumpling is a helmet that gives a 10% damage buff whenever Madness is in the vicinity. I use a Frenzy Stone and Howl to proc that Madness. This helmet is an RNG drop farmed from these weird, kinky Albinarics in Volcano Manor.
Brother, what's that? What's that, brother?
I also have the Twin Bird Kite Shield, which has the exact same condition as Red Feathered Branch Sword, but only increases damage by 5%. And this is acquired from a Deathbird just outside Lanedell. These extra additions let us take on the next boss, blocking Shadow Fragments, the Hippo. We drink. We vow. We howl. It's very simplistic, but let's just see how much damage we're doing. Okay. No. You. The good news for the Physic is there is a new toy that the DLC added, the Blood-Sucking Crack tier. This buffs all damage by 20%, but at the cost of draining your health by 20 HP per second. So of course, that's a problem that needs to be solved, and I struggled for a while trying to figure out how I could possibly heal the damage caused by the tier without healing too much to get rid of the effects of Red Feathered Branch Sword. It's a really strange problem because I need to stay at low health without actually dying. So healing flasks won't work, too much healing over time won't work, and too little healing over time also won't work. I need to be like Goldilocks and find exactly enough healing over time to counteract the damage over time. And that's when I came up with this. Blessing of the Erd Tree heals a total of 12 HP per second and is easily picked up from the Queen's Bedchamber in the Ashen Capital. Combine that with a true star of the show, the Royal Remains Armor, which heals 2 HP per second per piece, for a total of 8 if you have the full set, and that's a perfect 20 HP per second. The armor is from defeating Ensha in Round Table Hold after picking up 1/2 of the Haligtree Medallion. But this is better for more than just that reason. The Royal Remains effect only happens when my health goes below 18%. So now, without even needing to do any setup, the Blood-Sucking Crack tier will bring my health down to Red Feathered Branch Sword range all by itself, and as soon as it gets there, Royal Remains will kick in to prevent me from dying. This discovery is probably my favorite thing that I found on this run. That added on to the build that I have been using allows me to face the next boss blocking 3 more Shadow Fragments, Jory, Elder Inquisitor. For this fight, it took many attempts to get it right, but the plan is to use Sleep Pots to cause a stagger and give me just enough time to get the full damage combo off. 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Okay, listen, all we need to do is just sleep him. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Oh. Fuck you! Okay, did something run out? God damn it. Okay, was I in RTSR range? No, I wasn't. Okay, that's the difference maker, dude. Oh. I miss! He gets knocked over and doesn't get hit by one. You piece of shit. Need to dodge his attacks. Need to suckle my asshole, brother. God, it would really suck if this is the successful attempt. I do not want to put suckle my asshole in the video. Yes! Damn it! Why? Why does it have to be this one? Buckle my asshole, brother. Beyond just the extra shadow fragments in the Abyssal Woods, there is also the Aged One's Exaltation, a talisman with the same effect as the Black Dumpling, which will see a little bit of use later when I need to squeak out just a little bit of extra damage. There's also one of the 11 major remembrance bosses in this area, and I can also give him a try. Oh, I need to aim at the ground. Oh! Alright, so that was 19,000. Yeah, still not very close. Dude has a lot of HP. Whoa. Alright, that's decent. Okay, that seems like it did have everything hit. Even with one of the most OP builds that I've put together, there are still some challenges that need a little bit more time. We'll come back to Midra later, hopefully with a better idea of how to one-shot him. Right now, I'm gonna hunt for more fragments, and I have two options. Gaius is blocking 5 of them, and Mesmer plus Ramana are blocking 4. Let's see how possible Gaius is looking. While we're prepping for Gaius using almost the same buffing routine that I did for Jory, let's talk about hot swapping and buff ordering for a second. Why am I using the buffs in the exact order that I am? Well, the answer to that is pretty simple. I'm using buffs in the order of longest duration to shortest duration. That way, none of the buffs will wear off before the fight ends. But there's also an extra layer to buffing strategy that I haven't been using up until now. Mostly because it's just annoying to do, but sometimes it's necessary. Hot swapping lets me get the buffs of equipment and talismans and then switch them to get buffs of different equipment and talismans. For this fight, I start with the Black Dumpling helmet and the Aged One's Exaltation to give myself the Frenzy buff. Then, as I'm walking through the door, I switch the helmet to the Royal Remains so that I don't passively lose my health, and the Exaltation back to Red Feathered Branch Sword. Managing all that inventory is hard. This allows me to get the benefits of 5 total talismans and 2 different helmets. And all I have to do is change equipment quickly. Switch. God damn it, I keep rolling too early. And I roll that too early. So let's walk through the exact buffing routine. I start by drinking the Physic. Both of the tiers last for 3 minutes, so they will never expire. Then I cast Blessing of the Erd Tree, which lasts for 90 seconds. Then the Frenzy Stone to start building up Madness for the Dumpling and Exaltation. And while the Madness is building, I cast Golden Vow, which lasts 90 seconds. And finally, Howl of Shabriri, which lasts for 40 seconds. After going through the door, I swap the equipment and I have the maximum amount of time possible to hit the boss while having full buffs. First remembrance, baby. Look at that, beautiful. All right, so that'll get us to Skibbity 18, which means Mesmer's next. There's a whole cutscene in Mesmer. I'm entirely sure we can two-shot Mesmer. or do one pre-cutscene and one post-cutscene. Mesmer is the next fight, and he is the first of 3 multi-phase bosses within this run. I'm going to be using the exact same setup as before without the madness hot swapping. But let's quickly talk about buff stacking and how it works in Elden Ring. For the purposes of increasing damage, there's really only 3 categories, and it's only possible to select one buff from each of the 3 categories. Multiple buffs from the same category will not stack. The one casted second will override the first. Those categories are weapon buffs, which should be obvious, things like Greases, Blood Flame Blade, Black Flame Blade, Royal Knight's Resolve. Aura buffs is the second category, which are things like Golden Vow and Commander Standard. And finally, body buffs like Flame Grant Me Strength and Howl of Shabiri. Now there's a bunch of buffs beyond that do not fit into any of these categories, and if they don't fit into these categories, then that means that they will always stack with everything. So these buffs would be things like Physic Tears, Talismans, Special Armor Effects, and Terra Magica. So if you've been asking yourself why I haven't been using Commander Standard or Flame Grant Me Strength, hopefully this answers that question.
America, a curse upon thee.
All right, so that's 2. That's 2 major bosses. Come here, bug lady. All right, we need Vow. And then we need, let me switch all this stuff over. Howl. God damn it. Oh, if I can bait that move, she'll definitely stay still long enough on that. One of them missed, man. One of them missed. Okay, so maybe I need to like back roll and then roll into her. Nothing's falling off, right? Yeah, there's no way anything's falling off. So I just have to be missing something there. I have to be missing one of the spark bursts. Instead of lightning, use the fire aromatic. I mean, she's probably pretty weak to fire, yeah? She is strong versus fire. So we cast this. Drop this. Drink this. Vow. Owl. Perfect. Am I too low? Let's find out. Okay, switch, switch. Switch, switch. Okay, so burning the shadow tree is the soft lock for like all the NPC quest lines, right? Or is the... So, do I need anything from any NPC quest lines? There's a talisman that boosts AR on sleep. Okay, I want that. Thalier only becomes hostile if you pursue Saint Trina and Thalier's quest. Okay, so Thalier's quest. Okay, are we good? Kill big dude and talk to Saint Trina now, yeah? Hell yeah, dude. I love concoctions. Causes immediate death if imbibed by an ordinary human. Hell yeah, dude. God damn it. Okay, can I... If he opens with that move, that's a bit of a problem. Yeah, that'll do. Now we need to go die to Saint Trina like 4 times or some sh. Give nerd. All right, that's what we wanted. With all the NPC questlines finished that I want to be finished, I can now safely burn the sealing tree, giving me access to the final 4 fragments in Enir Ilum and getting the max shadow level of 20. All right, that is max skadoosh. I don't really know what else to put this into. I guess more faith, more gooder. We can probably pretty easily do both Rolana and Dancing Lion. Okay, we drink. Seppuku. Blessing. Alright, Vow. Owl. Drink the blue. Switch to this. Okay, so he's somewhat resistant to lightning. Unless I just missed some there. So we might have to bust out small amount of hot swapping. All right, Ashes of War. Fire damage. That does not seem very weak to fire to me. This is probably like a 20-40 situation. Or, more realistically, Fextra just has no idea what's going on. That seems like good RNG. I didn't know he backed up like that. That'll do. Okay. Now we can go do Rolana. She didn't even look like she was in that. Number 6. Number 9. Number 9 Lodge. The next boss on the list is the Sunflower, and he is the second of 3 multi-phase bosses in the DLC since he has 3 entirely separate health bars. And this guy demands a small adjustment to the build. The Lightning Perfume has been carrying the run so far, but this Sunflower has a negative 40 resistance to fire damage, so I'm going to pivot into the Fire Perfume build. The Fire Perfume is gathered from the camp just outside Castle Ensis using the same Rolling Sparks Ash of War. I replaced the Lightning Scorpion Charm with the Fire Scorpion Charm, which is from this small castle at the base of Mount Gelmir, and finally, I replaced the Lightning Tier with the Fire Tier from this Putrid Avatar in Caelid. Those small adjustments are going to allow me to much better exploit this boss's weaknesses. And I'm really going to need the help, because getting all of the projectiles to connect on this boss is actually pretty difficult. Okay, so maybe is there a hitbox on him coming out of the ground? Because if there isn't, I just pre-time that. There is a hitbox. Okay. But we can probably, because we don't need to be hitting his face. We can just dodge that, and then hit the stem. Drop the meat on the stem. You know what I mean? Fuck! Does he have more health in this phase? Oh, I might need to dodge the burst and actually hit his forehead. God damn. I was led to believe that this AoE was small, you Jesus Christ. Thanks. Now, it's time for the boss that most of you have probably been waiting for. The final boss. Spoiler warning if you haven't got there quite yet. Promised Consort Radon. This fight, having a cutscene and being the last multi-phase boss, is actually going to make beating this boss not as difficult as you might think. I had to bust out the hot swapping madness strategy again for this boss, but honestly, nothing too crazy. So, with a little bit of madness hot swapping, this absolutely is one hit before cutscene and one hit after cutscene. Stone. Drink. Blessing. Oh, I have the wrong things on. This needs to go here. This needs to go here. Vow. Howl. Perfect. All right. Drink. Switch. Oh, switched the wrong thing. Switch. There we go. This goes here. This goes here. Unlucky opening move. Head through. Switch. Switch. I'm not in RTSR range here. I didn't get my health low enough. That'll do. Time to return to Midra. The 3 remaining bosses are all very concerning. I've already attempted all of them at this point, and this perfume build just honestly isn't cutting it. The best attempt that I was able to get on Midra was 31,000 damage out of 47,000 total. So I started brainstorming. One very helpful suggestion that I got from Twitch chat was the Crusade insignia, which gives a 20% damage buff for 20 seconds after killing an enemy. And because of the little dude that you have to kill at the beginning of this fight, that was going to be quite an easy conclusion. Yeah, you're right. You're right, that would be good. The insignia is from the Fire Knight Quelline invasion, which happens either here in Ballarat. Where's little bro at? He doesn't invade if the tree's burned, or here in Shadow Altus, depending on how far into the DLC you are. But 20% is not going to be enough. I'm going to need to test out some entirely separate builds. The most promising idea is Impenetrable Thorns. This is a brand new sorcery in the DLC that honestly does some ridiculous damage. The sorcery itself is from a hidden dropdown in the Shadowkeep, and now to optimize its damage. To cast the sorcery, I'm going to want a staff with the highest sorcery scaling that I can get. And for right now, that would be Lusat's staff from this chest in Caelid. Technically speaking, the Prince of Death staff or the Mother staff would be better, but I don't have enough levels for Prince of Deaths, and the Mother staff is locked behind the finger boss that I haven't quite yet figured out how to kill. So Lusat's it is. I respec into a build with 99 intelligence to maximize scaling, and I also pick up the Staff of the Guilty. This is farmed from these blood mages next to the small castle at the base of Mount Gelmir. This has the passive effect of buffing thorn sorceries by 20%. And I can get this effect by just having it in my offhand. I don't even need to cast the spell with that staff to get the buff. For talismans, I still have Red Feather, the Crusade insignia, the Magic Scorpion charm, which is a real pain to get. It's from the end of Solovis's questline and requires a bunch of Starlight shards and talking. And finally, the Graven Mass talisman, which is from this puzzle tower in Consecrated Snowfield, where you have to make the imps fight each other with crystal darts. For the physic, the magic tier replaces the lightning tier, and both of those tiers are acquired from killing the same boss in Liurnia, and that's alongside the blood-sucking tier. Something else that I can include with this build is Albric's armor, which is a pretty huge 6% damage buff per piece for the hat, chest, and gloves. That's a really big buff for an armor set. The issue with this is that I don't have enough healing to fully counteract the blood-sucking crack tier, but as long as I'm fast enough getting one cast off before I succumb to the passive damage, it's probably possible. And Albric's set is from the Round Table Hold in Lane Dell, sitting on a body. Then, the real difference maker that magic builds have is Terra Magica. This is a unique buff that increases all damage by 22.5% while you stand in the circle. This is from a minor cave in Liurnia behind a Crystalian boss fight. And that should be all the stuff I need for an optimized Impenetrable Thorns build. Let's see how it looks. This is the setup that requires no hot swapping. And we'll see what the damage looks like. Okay, so we start off with this setup. Okay, so we drink. And we blessing. And we vow. And we howl. And I guess I want this to be lower health, so we do that. Then we switch. And then we switch.
The depths of your foolishness.
What?
Of your foolishness.
So, yeah, these just miss.
Of your foolishness.
Okay. And then I get up here. Okay. And hope I have enough FP. I do not. Okay. So I need to drink before I get in there. Wow. I mean, that's very similar damage. Oh my god. So we can do a madness buff? If we hot swap madness, we get there. So cast blessing. Toss this. Vow. Howl. This timing is gonna be off. But we go here, and then we drink this right before we're gonna get madness. Okay. And we get our madness. All right. Head on through. Switch to this and this.
Depths of your foolishness!
Pop this. Oh my god. Yeah, you thought the perfume build was going to be the strongest that you saw in this video, didn't you? No, 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 no. This impenetrable thorns build is just so much stronger, mostly because of the armor set and Terra Magica difference. Honestly, I was concerned about this finger mother fight, but after seeing how this just demolished Midra, I feel pretty confident that this has more than enough damage. Oh, come on. Did one of them miss? My God, I know I need to roll early. I struggle with like the directionality on these rolls, because if I roll forward, I end up on her side. Yes, dude. All right, there we go. With Matir defeated, that unlocks the Emir boss fight, and this is where I get the maternal staff from. This staff is very slightly better for this build because it has higher sorcery scaling at very high intelligence and arcane levels. And because it scales with arcane, it also causes the spell to do more blood loss buildup. The problem, however, is that this NPC fight is actually super annoying to one-shot, and realistically, the staff would only buff this build by a couple of %.
The whole of Count Emir is with you.
Yeah, just jump over the goddamn pillar spikes. Why not? Merry Christmas.
My dear star.
All right, I'm hoping I only need to kill that once. She respawns if you die. That's catastrophic. Oh no. I mean, I also don't need this staff.
Would abscond.
God damn it.
I will be with you, Mother. And I, the only mother.
What the f- All right. So we do not need this staff. That staff might be helpful, but we don't need it. And as you're about to see, it turns out this Thorns build is not actually going to be the solution for the final boss that we have to defeat on this run. As you can see, even with a very exotic buffing routine, the best that I could do on Bale with the Thorns was 28,000 damage. That is 13,000 damage short of one-shotting his 41,000 health. So obviously I was going to need to test a whole lot. I broke out the perfume build again, 17,000. A charged attack build with the rusted anchor, not even close. Finally, I went back to Old Faithful. Ancient Dragon's Lightning Strike. Probably the single best item for one-shotting things in the entire game. The only downside is, because of how the spell works, it requires a good amount of luck to have as many of the lightning bolts to connect as possible. But when nothing else works, farming out RNG is a good option. The spell itself is from a spellbook in Farum Azula. I will be using the Golden Order seal with 80 faith and 80 intelligence. This will give me the most incantation scaling, and this seal is from a church in Altus Plateau. The Gravel Stone seal is my offhand as it boosts Dragon Cult incantations by 15%. The Physic has the Blood-Sucking Crack tier and the Lightning tier. Talismans are Red Feather, Lightning Scorpion, Godfrey's Icon, which boosts charge spells by 15% and is from this boss located in this Everjail in Altus. And finally, the Phlox Canvas Talisman, boosting incantations by 8% and acquired by doing Gowry's questline. Time to try to get lucky. Okay, maybe all the way in the Scrungus down here. Ooh. Oh, look at you. Looking nice and pretty, aren't you? Okay, that's not bad. I tried to just get super aggressive with it, see if I maybe had the time. If that's a guaranteed opening move, I think I can get all the way back in the scrote. Okay. Again, that's 28,000. We need a couple more of those to hit. Okay. So standing on that side gets a follow-up that we don't like. Close. Very close. I should be able to trade with Vale. Let's fucking go, dude. There it is. So awesome. That is all 11 bosses in Elden Ring's DLC one-shot. The only asterisks there being Mesmer and Radon because of their cutscenes. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you got all the way to the end, YouTube thinks you'll like this video popping up on your screen right now.